also, like, my personal vision is I'm really interested in how we can really democratize storytelling and get everyone sharing and creating together. And so we've already seen a lot of teachers that have been using us to generate video for like lesson plans. The most important thing you can do is ship fast, right? Put it in the hands of users as quickly as possible. One thing that I was surprised at is, we put out this free program and we had so many users asking like when we were going to have a subscription available. Spending a lot of time like talking to our users, seeing like, are they satisfied with the value? What additional value can we bring into the platform that will really enhance and retain over the long term? Sure, we had a lot of the people from the traditional AI art community. We also had a lot of people that never used an AI tool in the past that were creating content with us, which I thought was exciting. Like, how do we build characters where you have like a lot of expressivity, a lot of emotion, the ability to have like a really high fidelity control over like what people are saying and how they're saying it. Across all modalities, like, LLMs still are not at the intelligence level where they can replace any humans, really. Yeah, I mean, I would say I have a couple of pieces of advice for like, aspiring founders in especially AI is, just because you're an artificial intelligence company, it doesn't mean you're not a product company. But, unfortunately, my acting career didn't work out, so I had to go do a startup.
Welcome to Intelliverse. This is the podcast where we explore the fascinating world of generative AI and the people who are building that world. I'm your host, Heather Cooper, and today we're talking to the co-founder and CEO of Hedra, a company that's really making waves in the world of generative AI and video creation right now. Michael has a strong background in AI research and development, and he's previously worked at prestigious institutions like Stanford University and the Salk Institute for Biological Studies. At Hedra, their team is leading the charge in developing innovative tools that allow users to create expressive and controllable human characters from simple text and images right now. Today, we're going to talk about Michael's journey and the vision behind Hedra and the groundbreaking technology that they're building. So welcome, Michael.
Thanks so much for having me, Heather. It's good to see you again.
Yes, you too. And I'll just go right into it. Like, it's always interesting to find out, what were you interested in technology when you were growing up?
Yeah, I say like my two biggest interests growing up were technology and theater. So I grew up, doing like local like theater productions, both in like middle school, even elementary school actually. And then in high school, I also did like a cappella. So I was really interested in the arts, but unfortunately, my acting career didn't work out, so I had to go do a startup.
That's so
But yeah.
crazy.
But also, I grew up programming. I grew up really into computers. Like, I remember building my first computer with my dad when I was like 6. And so I was always excited about the potential of like sort of my hobbies coming together. Which, that's a lot of the inspiration behind Hedra.
Who would have thought that all years ago that this would be, a way to blend them together like that? You would have thought that they were two separate interests or two separate areas where they weren't necessarily related. But it's so cool to be in this moment now.
Yeah, I mean, it was really exciting back when like originally Stable Diffusion came out and people started shifting into this like, data-driven paradigm for media generation. I think that's when like I really saw the beginning of what could be. It's been exciting to see all the research, innovation, and investment into the space.
Yeah, I'm all here for it, and I've struggled because I mispronounce Hedra as Hedra a lot of time. And you told me before. Can you tell us how did you decide on the name Hedra?
Yeah, so we were looking for a name. We wanted something that was easy for people to remember, that was short, that you can get a .com, and that you can get a trademark on. When you eliminate that, there's like very few names that exist in the world. But we like Hedra because it's this, the suffix of like polyhedra, tetrahedra. It means like the foundation of a geometric solid. Which, we're a video foundation model company, so we thought it had kind of a nice symmetry to it.
Yeah, it works out. Yeah, it's really cool, and it helps you remember it when you think of it that way too.
A
But
lot
I'll
of
still
people,
probably mispronounce it.
no, it's okay. A lot of people are like, oh, they did like an upper body or like head model, so like Hedra. And I was like,
Yeah,
I didn't think of that. It is clever, but no, it is Hedra.
like Max Headstrong, I think it was named was in the 80s. But
Yeah,
good
a
stuff
lot
like
of people
that.
have been creating videos in that style with us, which I think is kind of cool.
Well, can you share the vision that behind Hedra and what inspired you to start this venture with your
Yeah,
co-founder?
yeah. So, I took some time off from school for my PhD back last year, and I had been looking around at other companies sort of in the video space. At that time, it was pretty much just Runway. And I think those companies are doing amazing work. They're building all these really powerful tools for artists. Like I've used Runway a lot in my career. But at the same time, what I was really interested in was more control over the foreground. Like how do we build characters where you have like a lot of expressivity, a lot of emotion, the ability to have like a really high fidelity control over like what people are saying and how they're saying it. And for me, that's what we really want to focus on is, building a very controllable but also extremely fast foundation model that would let you create these foreground characters or, create even video maybe like this conversation we're having now. So my co-founder Alex graduated. We started the company, and then that was pretty much what we assembled our team to do. So we brought together a bunch of researchers, engineers, designers, with the goal of creating this creation studio around a foundation model that was extremely fast and controllable. And character one is essentially just our first step towards realizing that vision.
It's made quite a splash since it's been since you launched. It's just it's incredible how quickly it was. People, were you surprised with the reaction when I first used it? Like I got a little bit early advance use, and it was amazing. And even when you demoed it to me, but then when you went ahead and launched, and the different people who are working, behind the scenes, and we started posting things, people immediately started. They jumped on there and started coming up with all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we didn't really anticipate the launch to have the magnitude it did. I did like, reach out to a bunch of the people, like the leading artists in the space who had experimented with these tools because I wanted to see what the capabilities of the model was. And I was actually shocked because especially, your post just blew up. Like I think you had like
Yeah, I
hundreds of
was.
thousands of views. And
Yeah.
what you made was just so much better than all the stuff that I had made. And I had been working with the model for like a month before you had even seen it. So yeah, I mean, I was both impressed from like the magnitude and diversity of the people that were engaging with the technology. Like, sure, we had a lot of the people from the traditional AI art community. We also had a lot of people that never used an AI tool in the past that were creating content with us, which I thought was exciting. And then, like your work, Uncanny Harry's work, like people really pulled out some amazing things out of this model, which is just our first release. So I was really excited. We have hundreds of thousands of users at this point. We create millions of videos. So we're just
Good.
really excited to get more people using us and give you guys more capabilities.
And this has been since we were talking. It's 4 weeks now since the launch, and you've had 100 million videos created,
No, 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 not hundred
or
millions,
1
hundreds.
million. I apologize. One or hundreds of
I
thousands,
think
or
it's like
let me get that right.
1.7 million or so at this point. I would need to
Okay,
go look.
one
Um,
1.7. That's incredible. I mean,
yeah,
and is it a strain to keep this servers going and the GPU? How is that? Have
yeah.
you
I
been
mean,
able
we've
to keep up?
yeah, definitely like, we built the systems to scale and it definitely like there were times where we were like, oh my God, we need more GPUs like now. Um, but at the same time, I think one of the key differentiators and advantages of our tech is just how fast our model is. And this is just, I think, our first version. We have some pretty exciting things in store in the next couple months.
Oh
So
boy,
that really
yeah, I can't
helped
wait.
in our ability to like serve these models to that many users.
Well, can I ask, like, what are the missions and goals? What are your, like, the core mission? And you've talked about making something that's accessible, that is people can use, and that's fast to create, like world modeling. And I was thinking about the term world modeling. Could you explain what that means to people who might not be familiar with the concept?
Yeah, so I think that, we started with characters, but over time we're planning on expanding the model's capabilities beyond just the foreground to also the background. And when people talk about world modeling, they talk about this idea of creating a holistic model of the world where you can model things like physics, motion, intentionality in one system, kind of taking the place of what might have been done by a traditional like 3D rendering engine or like a real
Okay.
camera, and putting it all into like one sort of unified foundation model where you can prompt it with either like text or like what we're exploring other modalities like audio and images.
That's helpful. So your core mission is to, what would you define at your core mission of Hedra?
We're focused on building a holistic storytelling engine. So for us, that's the intersection of product and model. So we're starting with what we feel is the most important part of any narrative, which is the characters. And our goal is to give you this holistic set of tools around our models so that you can go and produce a podcast or produce a really cool AI music video or just take a video of yourself giving an interview and do edits that would normally require reshoots. So we're building out not just the capabilities around the video generation, but we're also working with these audio generation providers. We're thinking like what does the next generation of user experience look around the video creation process, and how can we like deeply couple and build this together with our model's capabilities, especially as our model gets new capabilities over time.
That's helpful. And I would say, how do you see the company evolving in the next 5 years, even though time is so weird right now, fluid, it seems like, where can you even, do you have a long-term goal for where you see the company?
I do. Yeah. I mean, right now we're very focused on serving our users. We've gotten so many requests for different features, different capabilities, both from a model and a platform perspective. So we're of course, building out a new product that we're calling Hedra Studio that will be launching later in this year, which will combine our model's capabilities with some more additional full stack video production utilities that you get with other software. Over time, there's, I would say, our research roadmap and our product roadmap. We're very focused on keeping our model fast while expanding its capabilities. From a product perspective, of course, we plan on integrating other modalities into one unified creation studio. We're calling it like a multimodal creation suite, which we've talked about before. But that's sort of just the start of the vision of the company. Right now, of course, we've been focused on creator tooling, but over time, we've seen a lot of really exciting, enterprise users that want to build on top of our technology. So we've been working with some people to try to expose that via API. But also, like my personal vision is I'm really interested in how we can really democratize storytelling and get everyone sharing and creating together. So for the near term, we're very focused on building out creator toolings and offering a more comprehensive platform. But over time, I'm excited to share more about the vision, about how we maybe move in more to distribution as well.
Do you see, could you envision the future where in like high schools or in middle schools, elementary, where they're using, the students are using these tools, or teachers are using these types of tools for different types of things? Like what, it's hard to even for me to think of what we could do with it, but do you have any thoughts on that for like education or different sectors?
Yeah, I mean, so we've already seen a lot of teachers that have been using us to generate video for like lesson plans. So there's a real big interest in creating like more exciting ways to engage with students. So you can bring characters from books to life. You can create a version of yourself explaining various lessons, maybe in a personalized way at scale. There's a lot of, I'd say, new opportunities when you're able to generate video very quickly and personalize it to students that we think is exciting. We're not personally intending to pursue a vertical in the education sector because we don't think we're the team to build that out. But we have been working with other companies that are interested in building on our tech to bring it to those markets.
Do you feel that the every, there's so much, to me it feels like there's so much coming out every single week. There's new open source technology or code, and the way that people, once it's out there and people start using it in different ways, and it gives people more ideas, like live portrait for instance, and
Mhm.
how people are just integrating these tools together. Do you, is it difficult to keep up, or do you feel like sometimes you have to stop and pull some of that, or do you stay pretty focused on what your particular roadmap is?
Yeah, so I think, it's important as a company to always like be looking out at what how people are using your product in the market. Something I found really interesting is that people have been combining us a lot with live portrait. Like, we do very different things. Like live portrait sort of warps the facial expression to match a target donor video's facial expression, whereas Hedra is a purely generative, video model. So it generates facial expressions and the holistic body motion off of the audio. So you've seen a lot of people that want to take and generate a character and then graft that expression onto another character with live portrait for various reasons, mostly video to
Hmm.
video, which is a use case we don't support in our platform yet. So I think I spend a lot of time on Twitter with our users, looking at what people are creating with Hedra, looking at our Discord, which has been growing like crazy, which has been very exciting to see, um, and trying to figure out like how can we think about potentially building some of these capabilities onto our platform if it makes sense with regards to like the core workflows that we're targeting.
That's something, yeah, because it's just every week it seems like, man, and then also it's so cool to see people that are doing things like when I did my videos for Hedra to launch. I did it just to kind of show people here's what you can do with a mid journey, image in this
Yeah.
particular style. And people take that and then to see it evolve further and where they go with it is amazing. So I love seeing all the creative uses in with the narration or the character building, and people really are seeming to build worlds. They're starting to, they have long-term projects they're working on instead of just one, making a quick video. So I love to see it.
Yeah, it's been really exciting for me too. I've seen people now creating, series of videos. Like NeuralViz has this, I believe it's unanswered, or unseen oddities or unanswered oddities. And I think that we're really looking forward to building more of these workflows out into our platform, such that it makes it much easier for users, especially ones not super familiar with generative AI workflows, to be able to create this content at scale.
To see so many examples, it's amazing. Well, to those who see Hedra and think it's just another lip synced or talking avatar tool, can you explain the difference and how Character One sets itself apart from other products such as HeyGen or DID?
Yeah, so I think for HeyGen and DID, and these are great companies. So we're much more focused, I would say, on the holistic animation of like micro expressions, lighting, emotional state of characters in a way that lends itself to these like more performative use cases. I think the primary difference between the principal offerings of like HeyGen and Synthesia and us is that we're very focused on like building a unified foundation model for characters, whereas historically these companies have been more focused on like taking a video of a character, like a 2 to 3 minute clip of yourself, and creating like a reusable like studio avatar. I think both products have their use cases, but we think that the convenience of the just using a customizable image is very important for our users. And we have plans, of course, to move into full body support and other features that our users have been asking for.
Your image generator is really good, and you
Thank
can.
you.
It's like it really does a good job with the background and everything. And thinking about what you said about we're focusing on the foreground, but I guess another way to describe it would be you're not just worried about that character; it's the world behind them and around them, so that these it fits naturally.
Yeah, so we have been, I'd say like the focus of our current application is really on the customizable foreground character, but we did build like sort of the, pose control system in a way that it allows you to situate the character in an environment. Um, you'll see in subsequent releases that we'll be adding more tooling around manipulating the background and like blending the character into a variety of backgrounds.
Now that's and what about like music generation? Do you think you'll integrate some type of? I mean, that seems like it goes along. Well, even for me, sound effects. Honestly, sound
Yeah.
effects or things like that. Do you think that will be coming?
I think we'll have some very exciting news to share about that very soon, but I can't comment on it at this time.
Well, thank you for the tip to pay attention, and I look forward to it because it's a lot now where people the one of the most challenging things is when you're going to create videos like this is jumping around from platform to platform.
Mhm.
So the more editing tools and the more things that you can do in one spot, like multimodal, it's going to be that'll be very helpful, and I think people will be very receptive to that and see it. It kind of sets it apart from a lot of other tools and platforms.
Yeah, I mean, I think my biggest motivation behind this is like I'm a user and I actually subscribe to Hedra. Like I don't have like a secret free account or anything. I pay our monthly fee. And like I want to make content and I love making content with the model, but then I'm always like, okay, now I need to jump into CapCut and I need to reframe the shot. I need to remove the
Yeah.
background. And I think that if we want to move beyond the sort of core power user of these AI tools and into the broader, creator community, we really need to start giving people workflows, which is what we're focused on in Hedra.
Yes, workflows are key. And then there's different people take those and even evolve them further too and find, better ways to do things or just incorporate their own. Well, how I wanted to ask quickly about your background because you do have a background of robotics and neurology, I forgot. I apologize. I forgot what the
Neurosciences, yeah.
neuroscience. Yeah, I was like, what exactly was the degree? So, how does that help you with? Did that help you with this, the micro expressions and things like that? Thinking of how like movements for that would be more closely related to real humans or robots.
Yeah. So, for my PhD, I kind of initially focused on like differentiable physics modeling, which is like how do you take some like, video and like try to infer some like hidden state that you can predict over time to like recapitulate that video. Which is kind of like the methods we were using back then, like 2018, are like much lower compute and scale than like what people are trying now with video models. So I'd say that's like one half of how it is how I think about like how do we use some type of model in place of a 3D simulator to do consistent long form prediction. I think the other half of it is I spent the latter half of my PhD moving through simulation into this like embodied intelligence. Like how do we create these virtual agents that understand scenes and interact and respond to them? And I think that really informs how we're thinking about characters as a unit at Hedra. Like we're not just stopping with creating a video of a character based on audio, but like how do we actually embody these with personalities that can affect that video? Like I have different facial affect and I have different ways of interacting in the world than you probably do. And I think that's important when it comes to creating like really interesting, engaging characters, especially as we move beyond just static content, but into interactive and dynamic content, which is something we're also very excited about pushing on.
That would be. Before when we spoke, I asked you, my son wanted to know what you thought about the parallels with like the Jetsons and how
Mhm.
this would kind of be the time that they were living in. And if you thought that we're further along, or how do you think that it's kind of matching somewhat to what they predicted way back in the 50s and 60s?
Yeah, I think, in a lot of ways, we're behind, right? Like, I don't think that embodied intelligence is at the point of the Jetsons. Like, we don't have Rosie, right? I think it's Rosie.
Yeah.
And, in other ways, like, we have more ubiquitous access to technology, like, cell phones, like the internet. But I think in terms of like artificial intelligence, maybe in particular, one thing in the Jetsons is everything just kind of works. Right? You hit a button and things work reliably. And I don't think we're quite there yet with a lot of our models. Like across all modalities, like LLMs still are not at the intelligence level where they can replace any humans, really, except for like me, like summarization jobs and some automation. Image generation, it's like beautiful, but it's still not at the point where we have like, super high fidelity control over composition, even with the best models. Like you can get maybe the foreground character right and the style right, but things like I play around with Midjourney a lot, and it still takes me some time to get exactly the right prompting and still the best model. Um, and then like for video, it's still extremely nascent. We're still generating like 5 to 10 second clips. I mean, Sora, you look at like the generation of like the woman walking through the street of Tokyo and her legs blend together. And I think we're in the phase now with AI where some things we've saturated the scale curves for now, and maybe that will change in a couple months with like Llama 4 comes out. And I think what I'm looking for us to really enter that Jetsons era is how do we get to that like nine sigmas of control and reliability over AI? And I don't know when that time horizon of that is going to be.
Well, you also, the length of time that your videos stay very stable throughout quite a, significantly longer than other video models. And I think you had said before, right, it was kind of, infinite where they could just keep talking and they
Yeah.
wouldn't lose that, you know, um, clarity. So is that, I guess you have to limit it right now to 30 seconds
So
for,
we did roll out paid plans in 47 US states. And now we've removed some of that limit. It's at 4 minutes, I think. We're planning on lifting that soon. It's kind of hard to, with our current UI, deal with a very long video. Um,
yeah, yeah.
but yeah, so our model has this nice property where, for like the vast majority of like especially human like characters, it's just going to stay consistent. So you can generate very long videos, which is useful for the type of content we're targeting, which is like dialogue between characters, informative content, something like a podcast, something like a YouTube creator talking at the screen. Um, and that's a characteristic we want to keep with the model, even as we expand beyond, just foreground humans into more content. And that's one of the advantages, I think, of how we've designed and built the model.
What was one of your biggest challenge? What was the biggest challenge when you were revealing this out prior to launch?
Um, that's a really good question. I think one thing that I spent a lot of time on is we spent a long amount of time thinking about the amount of capabilities to build into our user interface. Um, so I think oftentimes, UI and AI has been pretty simple. Like, there's like a chat box in ChatGPT. It's like if you've used AOL Instant Messenger like 20 years ago, not that much has changed, right? Um,
Yeah.
and I think with video, oftentimes it's like you put text in and you get a video out. And we spent a lot of time trying to think about what was the appropriate level of sort of control and staging that most users could come in and be productive and not think too much about what they were creating, but would still give people like the appropriate degree of control that they would be able to get satisfactory results. So we spent a lot of time like, thinking about what the minimum level of complexity we should put into the UI, how to make the results very consistent. So you see this in our image generator. If you like upload an image, we sort of auto crop it in a way that makes the model usually work. But if
Mhm.
you use our image generator, it almost always works because we actually like precisely put the character in like a very satisfactory location in the scene, um, such that the model usually gives satisfactory results. So we spent a lot of time not only on like the design of the UI, but like the design of the image generator, how that intersects with the model, how we let users like clip audio in the model versus like use a variety of like generative voices to give like
Mhm.
a workflow such that most people would be able to come in and be productive or at least create some cool content with the system. So I'd say that was the hardest part. The model part is, once you figure out the architecture, sure, there's a lot of innovation and work to be done there, and we have some really exciting launches coming out. But a lot of it really, a lot of that is just stuff we know how to do, whereas building really good product takes a lot of work.
That's great to hear because you don't really, I wouldn't have thought that, but if you were to advise somebody who was interested in building a product right now, because it is very easy to use and it doesn't take a lot. There's a lot there that prompts you don't have to search for it and you can kind of understand it easily and get done. So would you advise people to spend more time on the UI and the user experience?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I have a couple of pieces of advice for like, aspiring founders in especially AI is, just because you're an artificial intelligence company, it doesn't mean you're not a product company. So go find a really amazing designer. Like I've been really privileged to work with, Payam and Jack, who I think are two of the best designers that I've met. Um, so go find a great designer and then spend a lot of time with your product, right? Like when we were in the development space, I at night I would spend like an hour playing around with things, touching things in the UI, thinking about all the ways that we could users could get lost. I put my mom on it eventually, and like I would get her feedback, and she's like, never used an AI tool in her life. So
That's
I
smart.
think I think it's like very important to like also put people onto the product and watch them the first time they use it and see what the first thing they do. Like I like watching where people move their mouse. And if
Hmm.
someone moves their mouse and they like get confused, or I always ask them, well, where did you think the item would be? Or like, why did you try clicking on that? So I'm like personally very obsessed with product and design. I'm not a designer, but I care a lot about it. And I think that's something that's very important because it, I think, reflects in user satisfaction, and that's the most important thing at the end of the day.
You probably contributed quite a bit to the reason why you have 1.7 million videos that were created, because it is easy and simple. When I posted my videos, people were replying to that post with their Hedra videos. So they knew they didn't have to get a tutorial or anything like that. They just went on, and it was so the ease of use was really helpful. And it's a good looking UI period. So
Thank you.
congratulations on that.
I bear very little responsibility for that. It's definitely, we definitely have amazing designers. I will say I overrode one decision with our designers, which I deeply regret, which is that in the character generation window, there's a create button at the bottom right. And some people think when you hit the create button, it's going to generate the video. And originally our designers wanted to put a tabbed
Oh,
interface where you could choose between uploading an image and generating. And I said that no, I wanted it to be unified. And I think that was unfortunately a mistake that I made because I do get a couple emails a week asking about this. So
really?
yeah,
At least
I
you
think it's still pretty easy, but
you're very open, and you engage with the community a lot, through questions when people are asking and making comments on different posts. You're very helpful, and you seem like you listen to the feedback and act on that. So
yeah,
that's
I mean,
a,
that's one of the reasons that we launched this free like preview, right? Is I wanted to understand what the pain points of our users were, what they did and didn't like, and I spent like the last month just trying to synthesize all of this and think about and reflect on our roadmap and make sure that we're building what people actually want. And fortunately, I think I made a lot of very good calls, but there's also a lot that I've learned just spending time with our users. I think that there's nothing better than putting a product out into the market and getting validation and feedback on the product for building something that people are going to be excited about using.
there's a lot. We've had a lot of products, in the past year that have come out, and people complain. They wait to use it, but it's like during the beta phase and alpha phase. It's really interesting to see, because eventually, yes, you're going to. It's not going to be free forever, but that sounds like that period you're using it well, and it's important. Would you advise people who are building products right now, building tools, AI tools, that they need to get it out there in people's hands so that they can first, before trying to put a subscription on it? Um,
Yeah, I think that the
yeah.
most important thing you can do is ship fast, right? Put it in the hands of users as quickly as possible. Like I see a lot of people come out and they release all these teaser videos that don't even show the product, right? They just talk about the vision of the product. And I think that it's not as effective as just like putting your cards out on the table and seeing what people think. Because if you have the core of something that has market pull, it's very easy to see that reflected in users. And even if you don't nail the design experience in the first end, if your product has utility, you will have users and they will tell you what to build. Don't build in secret and isolation for too long because you might not be building for a market that's there.
That's true. Things do change quickly, and you're also building a community of users that, once you do add subscriptions and plans and paid plans, they're going to be likely, if they found value in it, to use it, to continue and to subscribe.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I was surprised at is, we put out this free program and we had so many users asking like when we were going to have a subscription available. Not like when are you going to stop offering the free program, but when can I pay you? Which I thought was really surprising because like I had no idea people were going to want to pay for this version of the model. So it took us like 2 weeks to like, roll out all the infrastructure around billing, figure out exactly like how we were going to price things to be like fair to the users. I mean, we tried to price it like, very extremely competitively versus, other products on the market. But it's been really cool to see. And, we're spending a lot of time like talking to our users, seeing like, are they satisfied with the value? What additional value can we bring into the platform that will really enhance and retain them over the long term? Um, so I think that having some type of paid offering is a very good way of finding out, are people willing to pay for your software? And if so, like what more can you do to make them like a retentive user, not just a user who's going to come in and be like, oh, this is cool, but then like leave in like a month, which is really not how you build a sustainable business.
That's a good advice. Well, I'm going to do the rapid fire this or that questions just to
I'm ready.
find out a little bit about you and just hear it. It's pretty interesting, some of the answers. So I'm going to ask you the questions. It'll be just this or that. Pick one or the other. So first question, morning person or a night owl?
Both. I sleep like 5 hours a night between 12 and 5 a.m.
Do you find you could be productive at all those times, or is there one that you're better
um,
at?
I usually wake up when I wake up early in the morning. I send out a lot of my emails. A shameless plug, we just did an announcement that we're having like a creative partners program. We haven't figured out the name for it yet. I announced that on our Discord. Like I haven't really publicized broadly, and we just got my inbox became unmanageable. So I go through and I respond to every support email and every like creative partners email, and that takes a lot of time. So I usually wake up in the morning and I've been doing like a couple hours of email and a couple hours like responding to Slack or organizing. So I
Oh,
do most of my
well, that
best
makes
work in the
sense. Okay, I feel you. And I do too if I'm awake, if I can get there, and get a little bit of coffee. And I
yeah.
also need to get in that Discord and sign up too. But send you one more. But okay, number two, action
Instant
or comedy?
accept.
Thank you.
Um,
But action or comedy?
that's hard. I feel like there aren't as many comedies made anymore,
That's
like both
true.
TV and movies. Like I can't remember the last like truly funny show that I watched. Um, I would say
Yeah.
generally like action or thriller.
Okay. Beach or
Um,
mountains?
beach. I grew up on the beach in
Oh,
Florida, so
that makes sense. Skydiving or scuba diving?
definitely scuba diving. I really like going like really deep underwater, and I like again. I grew up in Florida, and there's lots of really cool places to dive, so I am certified.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
that sounds better. Cats or dogs?
I just cat sat, and I my 5 hours of sleep very quickly went to about 2 hours of sleep. So I'm gonna say dogs. But I grew up with both. We had a dog and cat growing up.
Okay. Hot coffee or iced coffee?
Iced coffee, like unquestionably, I only exclusively drink iced lattes, regardless of the temperature outside. Like,
Really?
yeah, I visited Montreal once and it was like -20 or something. I went to a coffee shop and I ordered an iced latte, and they just looked at me and just like I was just like insane.
Okay. Headphones or speakers?
Uh, you know, that's a good question. I mean, I think that I am like an audiophile kind of. Like I have a pair of like JBL 305 studio monitors on my desk. And I love music. I'm like a huge like Sufjan fan. I'm also a huge Kendrick Lamar fan. So I really like listening on like studios most of the time, but for the benefit of all of my fellow Hedrons, I use headphones at work.
What about movies or books?
Um, I care a lot about visual elements, so I'd say although I used to be more of an avid reader before I started the company, I definitely am more of a cinephile than like a reader. So I love Denis Villeneuve. He's one of my favorite directors of all time, of Wes Anderson, Richard Linklater. I just like, there's a dimensionality to movies around not just the storytelling, but also like the framing, the acting, the directing, the color that I just really appreciate.
Well, that's a great way to describe it for people who, shun them. They would rather, because books have the value, you wanted to adhere to the tale, to the story as much as possible, but then there's also ways to make it a little bit different visually.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the controversy around like books versus movies is usually because most books are not adapted into like a movie that is comprehensive, but are shortened into a movie. A lot of people feel that the richness and the time spent with the characters is lost, which I agree with often. I'd say like Dune is like a very good counterexample to this. I think Dune Part One and Two are like the perfect adaptation, and Dune's my favorite, probably my favorite sci-fi novel, next to maybe Hyperion. Um, so yeah, I totally sympathize with people that are like the books are better, because there's stuff that's gonna get cut. But I think a well done movie is like it's just a different experience.
Because they both can have a place, and it's two different types because you can't fit everything in there into a movie, but they both have a place. And it's good to read them and to see it a lot of
That's
times.
why I like miniseries, like or
Yeah,
like
to go a
I
little bit
think
longer.
as long as a show doesn't like run it, like people don't rush it, I think that a show is like the best of both worlds, where you can spend a lot of time and get attached to characters, but you still get like all the like aesthetic ability of actually being able to put the thing in be a visual medium.
And some anticipation of what it would look like with your imagination. That's always fun to see. Well, I have one last: city life or countryside.
Um, oh, that's hard. I'm more of a city person. Like I love San Francisco. I know that might be a controversial take nowadays, but um, I'm in New York right now, and I also love New York, but I like cities where you can still see the sky, and like where you can still see the ocean. So like I guess coastal cities are where I am the happiest. I don't think I
Yeah,
could
it's
live in like the middle of
the
the country.
center. I feel you.
I
I'm on the East Coast, not all as far over as I'd like to be, but yeah, it's still not in the center of the country. It is nice to see some sea in there. But thank you so much for. I appreciate so much that you came and shared a lot of this information. And so much happens in this past 4 weeks, and I'm just looking forward to seeing where Hedra goes from here and Character One, how it evolves. And can't wait for the additional things that you're going to be adding. And I'll be listening closely to hear what the news will be in another week or two. So,
we'll see.
where everybody can go to the website to try Character One right now to see everything we've been talking about. Just go to Hedra and try it out. Then you also have Discord. You have a vibrant community, it sounds like, inside Discord. And a lot of users on X and or Instagram. I think you had said before LinkedIn was popular. People were
Yeah,
using it.
people seem to be finding our socials, which is exciting. Like we haven't really been pushing them that much, but we've got like I think like 6,000 followers on X now, about 7,000 people in Discord. We don't have a Discord bot or anything, so it's mostly people that come to like help each other to show off their art. So yeah, I mean, yeah, follow us at Hedra_labs on X, and that's how you can stay most up to date with the happenings in the Hedra community.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And we'll hopefully get to have you come back here again and talk about what else has happened since then. But thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.